process, the mapping, and how to use it. To begin with that, we'll go into a lead and show the process for sending out an e-signature document. So within a lead, you'll see an e-sign tab. It may be named something slightly different, or your team may have customized it, but it will be called probably e-apps or e-sign. And within that tab, you'll see the documents that you currently have mapped, listed out, available for sending as e-sign links in emails. So the list that you see within your site will vary with what we see here in our demo site. Next to the drop-down to pick the document is the Generate button, which will open up the email showing the link that has been generated from the Adobe integration. And you'll also see options just below there for picking other documents to bundle in with the document you've selected, or other files to include when you send the email for e-sign. There's a small button at the top right within here that if you click for editing, takes you directly to the configuration page for the documents that you want for e-sign. So we'll look at that in just a bit, but first we'll just look at the process to do e-sign. So I'll pick one of the application here, Vantiv, and click Generate. And it will ask if there needs to be any additional signers because this application has been set up to have additional signer fields. I can skip that and just go to Preview Email. And this is what will, as you see here, generate the e-sign link from our help text. This is connecting to Adobe. And we'll get an email pop-up, and the text just below, we'll see in the preview, has a unique link for that specific document's e-sign. Now, when you get this email, you'll see all the standard fields for an email, like sender name, sender email, contact name, contact email. If that's empty, you'll have to fill it in. That just means it was empty in the lead. And then you've got the defaulted email template selected for that document. So if needed, you could change that, adjust the subject, add preview text, all the standard options for an email. And then if needed, edit the text of the email, add any other files as attachments, and if needed, schedule the email or send it immediately. Now, if you're looking at the email and you're wondering, I want to make sure that this shows up correctly for the merchant when they get it, you can just click onto the link and it will open that into a new tab. You're not going to lose where you were in the lead. This is just going to be a preview for you. And it'll show it to you just exactly as it would for the merchant who is receiving that link. So because this is powered by Adobe, we've got a frame around here with options showing you next required fields. It will take you down through there. Any of those with the red star are going to be the required fields, and any other yellow fields will be optional fields that the merchant can fill in. And you'll see other fields further down, typically in the pricing, which will be populated from your lead, but would not be editable. So those will just show as probably standard white fields. Now we don't have anything filled in for these fields from this lead, so we don't see anything there. But if we just imagine we're the merchant going through, we've looked over the document, we see everything looks good, we'll continue on and fill in the information to complete the application. So I'll just fill in contact name, I'll click Next Required. And this is the same way you could guide through a merchant who's going through the process. Just remember that most of this will be populated from your lead, assuming you have that filled in and it's mapped to the document. So I'll just put an example here, DBA name, just to satisfy the requirement, address, phone number, and I just keep clicking next. Now when I get to the signature field, and I click that, I'll get a pop-up from Adobe, and they give you some options, like if you just want to type in your name and have it generate a signature, or actually draw it out and then have it show on there, you've got that option. And then you've got to type in your name if it's not already showing so they know it goes with it. Then you'll click apply, and that fills in the signature. So it says I've got one more required field left, and this is another signature field, but the nice thing is Adobe remembers I already signed up above. When I click here, my signature is automatically applied, and we get the final click to sign button from Adobe at the very bottom. So this is what the merchant would go through. When they click sign, that's going to take that signed document, upload it back to your lead, send a copy to them and the person who generated the document link, and have it all recorded. So I'll close out this thank you page that the merchant sees. We can go back to the lead. We'll close the email. We'll just imagine that I had actually sent it. And if I refresh the page, then we'll see the updated status for that e-sign document will change. So before it showed as generated, now we see it says signed right here. So most leads that you see in your e-sign, your e-apps tab, they may not have this many rows in here. It just depends how many applications or other documents you've sent for e-sign. But you'll see the rows here with the details for them. You can see the IP address, location of the sender and signer to make sure that they weren't done from the same place in case that's of concern for you. And you're also allowed to open up the document and see it from there. If we then go to the Documents tab or Attachments tab in your lead, we'll see the signed copy of the application listed there, the original copy of the application listed just below it, and you can click and view either or email them directly from there. So if you are boarding to another processor not integrated with Iris and you just need to send that signed application out, you could click the email button here. If you need to send out the signed application and maybe other documents along with it, let's say a statement, void check, driver's license, you could check box those other files, select them, and then click to email them right from here. Or if you need to download them and then send them out separately, you could do that. And remember that for any files that you have here, if you download more than 3, it will put them into a zip file for you. Otherwise, it will just download them individually. Now, we've gone through what it looks like to send out the e-sign, complete the e-sign, and what you see after the e-sign is done. But how did we get to that point before? So from the administrative side, remember that shortcut that was up here in the e-apps tab? It takes us to the list of the documents for configuration. So we've got a list here in our demo site. All the applications will be listed there. It gives you certain information about them, such as what's mapped, who it's visible to, can they be done for e-signature, which in some cases you may only want to generate a PDF, not a full e-signature link. And then there's all the settings over here for updating those things. So probably the most common thing when you add an application or other PDF document for mapping is you want to set some basic properties for it. So if we imagine this test link that's here at the top is what we want to configure, I'll click the edit button on it, and it's got a few options here listed. Now it says the application type is generic form. That means I could only generate it as a PDF. If I wanted to also be available as an e-sign option, I click e-signature, and we'll see additional fields show up for configuring this. So let's run through the list here of what we see. The category is just how you organize your documents and how they show in the lead when you're picking them from the list. So you could group them by things like applications, let's say agent forms, equipment forms, other services. So categorizing them is just a way to group them in the list. Your display title and document name will show how it looks when it's selected, and then what also the document will be called when it's created. And the label selection here shows what type of file label will be used when that file is first generated and added to the lead. Now you'll see another label field down here. That means when the document is signed, that is the label that will be applied to the signed document. So the other settings here, email template. Remember when we selected e-sign and picked that document, it preloaded a certain email template So you can configure that per document so it's relevant to what you're sending out. And then when the document is e-signed, you have control over the signed email template. So this is the email that goes to the user who generated the app link and also the person who signed it. And this is where you choose who receives it. So if you only want it to go to the recipient, the person basically who signed it, then you can choose that, or have it go to the e-sign sender, your user, and the recipients. And a great feature here is the signed lead status. This allows you to choose the status to update the lead to when e-sign is completed. So let's imagine you've got a lead with a status of sent application. You send out that email link, you get it signed. In the past, you'd have to go to that lead, update the lead status, make sure someone did it appropriately and expediently. With this feature, the status would just change automatically. So you could pick a status, or if you didn't already have one, then create it to a status of something like application signed. There we go. Now, if you want the document that's signed to have a password associated to it to make sure only certain people could open it, you can choose a certain field to use the last 4 characters of to set a password. So if someone's going to open that document, you want them to only be able to open it if they know the last 4 of the social security number that goes with that lead. Then you would select this field and they'd have to pick it. And you've got some additional options there as well. And then the final options here, we already talked about the label. That's what the generated file and signed file gets set to when the e-sign doc is completed. And then the confirmation page is what shows to the merchant when they complete the e-signature process, which you can customize completely. We have a whole interface to make multiple configurations, and you can configure HTML and CSS to make a customized, basically a thank you page for when the e-sign process is completed. And last item, the help banner. You may have seen on the right side in the e-sign page, just a little image that was there that said, if you need questions, call this number. You can upload your own image and select it there, have a different help banner for different documents. So that's the basic configuration of an e-sign document. The most important part is going to be the mapping. Now, if you've seen the mapping in years past, you're used to a page with a drop-down list of the fields from your lead and a list of the fields from the PDF. With the new release for our interface, we have a visual mapper that shows the lead page on one side and your document on another. So you won't have to remember what the actual form field name is from the PDF to map it. You can just do quick drag and drop and map the documents. So we're taking a process that probably took hours before for a document that had several pages and boiling it down to minutes. And you've got easy confirmation of where fields are, what they're mapped to, and everything is available for you to map. So you can confirm that everything goes over. You can map a single lead field to multiple fields in the PDF, so you don't have to create multiple lead fields in duplicate to accomplish that. And if any mapping is incorrect, you can also just click a little trash can and get rid of them and remap them. So this process will take your mapping time down severely. You still need to use Adobe to set up basic fields like the signature field names and a couple other formats, but the time spent in Iris to map the fields is greatly reduced. If you have a new version of an application, provided it has the same form field names inside the PDF, you can also just replace a document when you get a new version. And if there's any other additional fields, you just find them that are unmapped and then map them just the way you had with the other fields. You've got a history here of the mapping so you can keep track and keep people accountable for what updates were done. You also have settings here, which allows you to go straight to your lead field management, see if there's settings, other settings that you want for additional attachments, or if you need to copy mappings from an existing application to another one, maybe a version that's very similar but has a few minor differences, You can do that without having to redo the mappings entirely. Now, once all the mappings are done, we would just click Save, and then that document is ready to use for PDF generation or e-sign if configured by the users that you specify. Now, that access for e-sign is controlled by the permissions. So if you have certain documents that everyone should be able to send out and generate, the default access is everyone. If you have certain documents maybe only available to sales or should only be used by support, then you can use the selectors for group, user class, and user, any combination, and select who should have access to generate those documents. Any questions? No? Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Our first line of mapping we did, it took us a whole weekend.
yeah.
Now it's like 20 minutes.
Yeah. You're gonna be asking people for more documents to map. You're like, what else can I map? Give me a PDF. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Yeah, good. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, this is all in the new interface. Yeah, and you can send an email to support, and they can flip a switch and get you on this, so you can try it. It's still technically a beta, but you can decide to use it. And if you go in and you use a page and you want to switch back to the way you've seen it before, you can click on your name and choose Legacy View and just see it the way you had. Now on the home page, we've also got reporting related to eSign. So you'll have a tab, probably eSign, eApps, or if you've given it a custom name. And here also we see, just a quick note, the pop-ups here at the top, eSign opened, eSign signed. These are gonna go to the user, whoever generated the app link on the lead. So you're completely aware. And also, we didn't look at it, but if the eSign process is completed and any information is new or unchanged from the merchant, the user who sent out the application or document will get a notification so they can review what information is now available and confirm that there aren't any issues. So it may be simple things like the merchant changed their address based on a spelling, but you also want to look out for items like the merchant previously said they were a convenience store, now they're saying that they are a smoke shop. So that probably would necessitate maybe different billing, different business categorization. So this will flag any new or different information so you can make sure you don't just board the account based on what they've said, you've actually got it in review. And here on the eSign tab on the homepage, we have our standard table reports, different statuses listed on the side, and our fixed time ranges along the top. You can filter by a specific user or group if you're segmenting by groups. And in the lower table, we have full details of the applications based on the filter selected above. So if I click 5 under Sent, month to date, the lower table will then display those 5 documents. And you've got a lot of columns to show you different information about that document. The gear icon can be used to specify which columns you want to see. And if needed, you have an export option for further review. Good on eSign? Okay. Yeah. So we'll take a pause there and then come back for gateway boarding to NMI, USA ePay, and Authorize.net.